Good morning and welcome to all B.Sc. third year students of Fishery Science. Boys, in this part we are studying the important aspects fish feed ingredients like that of the other animal, human beings, vertebrates or other different animals. Fishes are also required a good quality of feed ingredient, good quality of food, and when these good quality of food these are to be available, then fish or culture of fish crop will be grow in ideal manner, in a good manner. That's why the study of fish ingredient, these are to be important, these are to be essential to study the fishery science. In this part we have studied which are the fish feed ingredient, and these ingredients these are to be available, which are the sources and which are the composition of fish feed ingredients. The third important unit of your syllabus, that is fish nutrition. In this fish nutrition, ingredient for fish feed. Ingredient for fish feed. The first point, introduction. The abundance of feed grains. The abundance of feed grains often obscure the importance of industrial sources of raw materials for the domestic feed industry. That is, abundance of feed ingredient. These feed ingredient these are to be often obscure the importance of industrial sources of raw materials for the domestic feed industry. Domestic feed industry, that is poultry, cattle, these poultry, cattle, pig farming, duck farming, for these domestic feed industry, number of industry they can produce, they can act as a industrial source for the important feed ingredients. Published data from research in poultry and swine nutrition. Produced data from research in poultry and swine nutrition show corn or wheat as the predominant dietary component and the soybean meal or fish meal as the only dietary protein source in test diet. In published data which is to be published by number of workers, published data which is to be published by number of scientists, and it indicate that from this data in poultry and swine nutrition show corn or wheat as a predominant dietary component. Corn and wheat as a predominant dietary component, and soybean meal and fish meal are only the dietary component, dietary feedstuffs for the protein sources. And this dietary feedstuffs for protein sources is important, it is to be used. Often a test ration would consist of just a cereal grain and soybean meal plus mineral and vitamin supplements. Often a test which is to be done by test ratio, these are to be performed by workers. Test ratio these are to be performed by the scientists, and it is to be considered that cereal grain, soybean meal, minerals and vitamins, all these are to be important, all these are to be used for a feed ingredient for the poultry, for the swine, for the duck farming, for the fish culture or for the aquatic animal culture. Increasing competition in the feed industry, plus rising cost of traditional feed ingredient in recent years for forcing feed manufacturers to increase the use of less expensive feed ingredient, use of less expensive fish feed ingredient such as byproduct from the milling and food processing industry. Due to the competition, these are to be increased in the industry. Due to the competition which is to be occur in the number of industry, and among these industry competition these are to be occur, as well as the cost of that food these are to be more, these are to be maximum. And when the cost of these byproduct, these food these are to be more of traditional feed ingredient in recent years, it is to be forcing that those manufacturers, those industrialized or industrialists, they can produce the food product, they can produce the food, they can turn toward they can use less expensive food ingredient, because when these industrialists they can use expensive feed ingredient, high cost ingredient, then aquaculturists they can not purchase, they cannot be used such fish ingredient or such feed ingredient for their cultured aquatic animals or the cultured animals. Hence, industrialists they can turn to use less expensive feed ingredient by a byproduct from their industry, from their milling or from the food processing industries that they can be developed. Food processing industry they can be formed, they can produce a less expensive byproduct, and these byproduct they can use these byproduct fishermen, or they can sell their byproduct to the aquaculturist or the animal husbandry. Feed formulation have been added by more complete and reliable information. Feed formulation have been added by more complete and reliable information of the nutritive value of these products, as well as by the development of linear programming techniques for least cost diet formulation based on a large scale selection of ingredient. Means these industrialists, these manufacturers, they can use feed formulation, and these feed formulation these are to be added complete and reliable information of nutritive value of their product, nutritive value of protein, nutritive value of fats, nutritive value of minerals, vitamins, and as well as they can develop, as well as they can form the linear programming technique for the least cost diet formation based on large scale selection. When these are to be used on large quantity, then they can give a technique, they can give a idea for least cost diet formation, and with this these industrialists, these manufacturers, they can produce, they can manufacture number of byproduct, number of less expensive product for the aquatic animals or the cultured animals. Some of the more commonly used industrial byproduct currently used for fish diet manufacture in India and other countries. Some of the more commonly used industrial byproduct currently used for fish diet manufacture in India and other countries. These fish ingredient or fish byproduct which is to be commonly used, commonly sell or sold by these industries, these commonly other different byproduct which is to be manufactured by industrialists, these byproducts are as below. These feed ingredients are divided into 4 different categories according to their nature and content present in the feed ingredient. These ingredients, these feedstuff, they can be divided into 4 different categories, and these 4 different categories according to their nature and content present in the feed ingredient, they can be divided into 4 categories as number 1, meal byproduct. Number 1, this is the meal byproduct. Number 2, oil extractive. Third, animal byproduct. And 4, that is miscellaneous. These 4 types of feed ingredients they can produce industrialists, and these feed ingredient or feed product byproduct fishermen or aquaculturists, they can use as a food for the aquatic animals. In which the first meal byproduct, the byproduct which is to be formed, the byproduct which is to be divided, or the byproduct which is to be formed, created from the milling industries, from the food processing industries. These different byproduct, these are to be called as the meal byproduct, or simple way, those byproduct which is to be formed, those byproduct which is to be developed, or byproduct which is to be created after the extraction, after the food processing industry. Those are the waste part, those are the waste thrown part. That waste thrown part is to be not thrown out, but these are to be used as a byproduct when these are to be again reinforced, when again these are to be refurnished, and then these are to be used as a byproduct from the industry, from the milling processing industry or the food processing industry. These meal byproducts are following are the various meal byproduct produced from the milling industry, which are as wheat germ meal, wheat red dog, wheat bran, wheat middling, wheat mill run, corn gluten feed, corn gluten meal, rice groats, rice bran with germ, rice polishing, oat groats, etc. All these are the meal byproducts. Meal byproducts are the various byproduct produced from the mills or the food processing industry. These meal byproducts are: number 1, wheat germ meal, wheat red dog, wheat bran, wheat middlings, wheat mill run, corn gluten feed, corn gluten meal, rice groats, rice bran with germ, rice polishing, and oat groats. All these are the meal byproducts. The first, these meal byproducts, these are to be again, we have, for our convenience, for our sake, we have divided into different categories. Number 1, wheat meal byproduct, the byproduct which is to be produced from the wheat, the byproduct which is to produce from the wheat ingredient, that from the mills or from the industry, that byproduct is called as wheat meal byproduct. The first wheat meal byproduct is the wheat germ. First is the wheat germ meal. Wheat germ meal consists of chiefly of the germs of the wheat berry with some bran and middling. What is by wheat germ meal? Wheat germ meal consists of chiefly of germs of the wheat berry with some bran and middling. That is called as the wheat germ meal. A rather wide variety of wheat germ grades are produced. These wide variety of great germ, these are to be produced depending upon the area and rational demand. These wheat germ meal, these are to produce, these are to form. The quality of wheat germ meal is influenced by the presence of screening and the level of other wheat product, which can be lower the fat or protein level. The quality of wheat germ meal is influenced by the presence of screening and the level of other wheat product, which can lower the fat or protein level. Depending upon this fat and protein level, these quality of wheat germ meal, these are to be depend, these are to be formed. Excessive storage time may be result in rancidity. When more time these wheat product, these are to be stored, when these are to be stored for long time, excessive storage time may result in rancidity due to the oxidation of the rather high level of fat. And when rancidity these are to be occur, then feed ingredient, these are to be give a bad smell, and when these are to be decomposing and bad smell, then animals or the other different animals, they cannot use or they cannot offer such byproduct. That's why time, when excessive time these are to be taken, then the acidity these are to be takes place due to the oxidation of the rather high level of fats. Generally one wheat germ meal, generally one wheat germ meal may have a crude protein level of 25 to 30%. One wheat germ meal may have a crude protein level of 25 to 30% protein. Crude fat level is 7 to 12%, and crude fiber level is 3 to 6%. And when these means protein, fats and protein, fat and fibers, when these are to present in that wheat germ, that's why that ingredient these are to be good. Those essential ingredient which is to be required for the animal's body, that essential feed ingredient these are to be easily available from the these meal byproduct, and hence these are the important fish feed ingredient used for culture of aquatic animal. Second feed ingredient, wheat red dog. Wheat red dog. Wheat red dog consists of offal from the tail of the mill. What is meant by wheat red dog? Wheat red dog consists of offal from the tail of the mill together with some fine particles of wheat bran, some fine particles of wheat bran, wheat germ and wheat flour and wheat flour. When these three combine, lastly, offal means last end of the industry, last part of the industry where wastage these are to be removed, where waste material these are to be leave out from the industry, from that portion, from that part, when some fine particles of wheat bran, wheat germ and wheat flour, they can combine together and forms a product. It is called as a wheat red dog. It is called as a wheat red dog. Wheat red dog is a fine, fluffy, light colored feed ingredient. Wheat red dog is a fine, fluffy, light colored feed ingredient. The color may change or may range from creamy white to light brown. The color may range from creamy white to light brown or light red depending upon the wheat being milled. How much wheat these are to be milled, how much wheat these are to be rotated in industry, depending upon this milled, that is color these are to be depend color these are to be for. Wheat red dog can act as a pellet binder. Wheat red dog can act as a pellet binder as well as contributor to protein, carbohydrate. It is also wheat red dog act as a pellet binder as well as a contributor of protein, carbohydrate, minerals and vitamins to the feed. That's why these wheat red dog these are to be important. These are to be useful fish feed ingredient. Wheat red dog may have a crude protein level of 15.5 to 17.5%. Wheat red dog may have contain a crude protein level of 15.5% to 17.5%. Crude fat level is 3.5 to 4.5% and crude fiber level is 2.8 to 4.0%. Crude fiber means protein level is to be 15.5 to 17.5, fat level is 3.5 to 4.5 and fiber is to be 2.8 to 4%. Means as compared to the wheat germ meal and wheat red dog, the composition of these protein, fats and fiber variable these are to be different, and hence it is the important fish feed ingredient which is to be used for the fish culturists or the aquatic fisheries farmers. Next, wheat milling processing byproduct is the wheat bran. Next, wheat byproduct is the wheat bran. We all know that wheat bran. Wheat bran is the coarse outer covering of the wheat berry, sometimes screening or grounded and added to the bran. Sometimes wheat bran is nothing but the coarse outer covering of the wheat berry, sometimes screening are grounded and added to the bran. Wheat bran contribute bulk to the ruminant feed and is a source of carbohydrate, protein, minerals and vitamins. Wheat bran is the source of carbohydrate, protein, minerals and vitamins. Generally, one wheat bran will have contain a crude protein level of 14 to 17%, crude fat level is 3.5 to 5%, and crude fiber level is 10.5 to 12%. Means this wheat bran, it have possesses a variable protein, fats and fiber level, as well as it contains carbohydrate, protein, minerals and vitamins, but their proportion these are to be variable, their proportion these are to be different. Next, meal byproduct from the wheat middlings. Next is the wheat middlings. Wheat middlings consist of fine particles of wheat bran. Wheat middling consists of fine particles of wheat bran, wheat shots, wheat germ, wheat flour and some of the offal from the tail of the mill, that is called as the wheat middling. In MCQ it is to be asked, what is mean by wheat middling? When wheat middling, these are to be prepared or it is to be formed of fine particles of wheat bran, fine particles of wheat shot, fine particles of wheat germ, wheat flour and some of the offal from the tail of the mill. That product is called as wheat middling. The quality of the middlings may be influenced by the amount of screening added and the fineness of grind. These two parts, they can depend upon the quality of middling. Which are these two parts? Number one, the quality of the middlings may be influenced by the amount of screening. One part, amount of screening added, and the second part, that is fineness of grind. How much these feed ingredients they can fine, they can grind, whether they can medium, they can a very fine particles or they can a very large particle, depending upon their fineness it is to be depend. A moisture level over 14% may cause problem. A moisture level over 14% may cause problems, especially in hot, humid climates. When feed middlings have a crude protein level of 15 to 17%, crude fat level is 3 to 4%, and crude fiber level is to 8.5 to 9.5%. Here is again the concentration and combination of protein, fats and fiber. It is to be variable, it is to be different, because it is to be a variable concentration, variable composition of fat, proteins and fiber. With these wheat bran, wheat middlings, then wheat middlings, and earlier that is wheat germ meal and wheat red dog. These are the important wheat milling byproduct, and these wheat milling byproduct they can use in aquaculture industry, they can use in, that is aquaculturists, to grow, to culture the aquatic animals on large scale, as well as it can grow faster as compared to the other aquatic animal. These are the important fish feed ingredient which is to be produced from the industries or the milling byproduct or fish mill byproduct. Then again few byproduct which is to be remaining we have seen in next part. Up to here, any problem, any difficulty, please ask. Thank you all of you.